Welcome to Martini Time. It's a beautiful, clear Wednesday here in Blackstone, the center of the world. But then you too are the center of the world. So welcome to the Dharma Trails. Happy trails to you, remembering Roy Rogers. So, I had two students today. Let me explain. So these two first-year doctors called me up a couple of months ago. They had a classroom project where they had to go interview some seniors, and they got my name. So they came all the way out here to Blackstone to interview me. And I had a marvelous time with them. And then they called up the other day and said, we have a few more questions. And so we decided to have a FaceTime meeting. So they FaceTimed me this afternoon, and we had a marvelous conversation. So I have two students, two medical students who called me up to find out what kind of a senior I was. And I really don't envy their position, because their questions in the format that they had to work with, like, do you like where you are? Is there any? What do you do to stay active? All standard questions you would ask senior citizens. And of course, I don't answer any of them that way. So I asked them, and they laughed. How are you going to fit what I tell you into this outline that you were given? So how do you make something that is authentically unique fit into something authentically standard, you see? It's like trying to fit the square peg into this round hole. So I titled this talk today, Where Are the Students? Now I'm sharing this with you one-on-one. Ever since I had a spiritual awakening in 1968, I wanted students. In other words, I wanted to be a spiritual teacher. Now, this is a tricky thing, because a spiritual teacher is not a material teacher. In other words, a spiritual teacher doesn't come with a Bible or scriptures or the theories of a psychologist or Buddha scriptures or yoga scriptures or any scriptures. And this is my definition. You can find different definitions. But spiritual means formless. So a spiritual teacher isn't teaching anything. So there's nothing. A spiritual teacher has no thing to teach, because thing comes from memory and the storehouse, where you store up the knowledge and then you dish it out when somebody says, can you teach me? Whoa, yes, I got all this scripture stuff. I'm such an expert. And I just load you up on it, you see. I just dump truck it on you. That's not what I'm talking about. And I really just realized this just while I was mixing my martini. Most of my best insights come when I'm stirring the martini or going to the toilet, either one. But so the insight was, what is a student? Now, see, the standard idea of a student is, you got the teacher and you got the students. And you got the students, they come there, and they're kind of like their cup's empty, and they want the teacher to fill it up with whatever he's got that they want. It might be plumbing, it might be quilting, it might be religion, philosophy, whatever. You take the cups, they fill it up. You see, that's not what we're talking about. So spiritual teaching, spiritual, first of all, is not teaching spiritual things. Spirit means formless, so there's no thing to teach. So what do? Well, it's creative teaching. You create the teaching. In other words, you start with nothing and you create something that you didn't even know you had. That's what creativity means. When you create something, it's not something you had in your pocket. It's not something you copied from somebody or somebody taught you. It's something entirely new and unique. What you create is unique. Never existed before. In the whole cosmos, it never existed before. It's unique. So creative teaching, now I'm equating these two, creative teaching and spiritual teaching are creating something that never existed before. So how do you do that? Well, we're doing it right now. You and me. I don't see an audience out there. In fact, I'm looking at myself. So this is... So in other words, when the teaching... In other words, the teaching, when you have a student and a teacher getting together, spiritual teaching, there is a happening. Remember the 60s, a happening. Something happens. So it's a catalyst. It's like putting two sticks together and getting a fire, you see. And there's no, in the happening of the spiritual teaching, there is no teacher and student. It's not like this, it's this. There is no separation in the teaching. That's because it's formless, you see. So the teaching happens when you bring two people together like this, and something happens that was unexpected, unpredicted, and unknown. And both benefit. You see, both benefit. Of course, the teacher does bring something to the happening. He brings his own practice, his own wisdom. But it's not like it's all on cards that you can look up. It's who you are. You see, it's not like you can go through your file cabinet and come up with something. Your whole being is something. You see. So that when these two come together, and so then the student comes with curiosity. He feels a resonance. He feels something going on under the table. If you're here listening to me, it's because you feel a resonance there. Something that is formless, that connects us, you see. The two forms are, of course, you as a form, wherever you are, and me as a form here. That's on a space-time grid. I don't know where you are. You might be California, India, I don't know. You might be out down the street. That's what's so wonderful about this, you see. But you see yourself as a thing, as a form, with a history, with a profile, you see, something, you see. And then I'm something, I've got a personality and a history and a profile, and you can make a list of what I like and don't like and all that, but that's not who I am, nor is it who you are. So when we come together in this resonance, you see, we're coming together in a formless place and something happens. Insight. Oh, I didn't see it that way before. You see, so this something happens, you see, when the two come together. So for a person like me, I think, as I look back on my life now, I'm 81, and I should have students. I should have a following. Students who come and bring me presents. Say, oh, you see. Never happened. So I'm kind of like a Facebook teacher, in the sense that if you engage me on Facebook, as you are engaging me here, we're sharing. We're trying to create some sparks of insight here. I'm not trying to, and I don't. You know, I've had to learn how not to do this, basically, on Facebook. But I don't write on Facebook to squelch the opinion of to make another person wrong. Now, I'll certainly apply logic to what they're saying. I'll question what they're saying, but never wrong. Never, you're an idiot. You see, never squashing them. But just let's look at this logically together, you see. So anyway, I think what I'm struggling to articulate here is that for the teaching to happen, and this can happen between you and anybody, your friends, neighbor, or anybody that you resonate with, the teaching is going to happen. It doesn't have to be some highfalutin Buddhist or yoga philosophy or something. It's just insight. Oh, I got this problem. I go sit with a friend, we have some tea, and I see what to do. That's teaching. How did it happen? You resonate with a friend who is not judgmental. There's no judgment in teaching because there's no ego in teaching. You have a friend who meets you in this intermediate zone, like no man's land in the First World War. You got the Germans and you got the English here, and you got this no man's land. You might meet there at night and shake hands and have tea with your enemy, and then during the day go back to the trenches, you see. So this intermediate zone is where spiritual teaching happens. And again, teaching is not one way. That's what we think that. We think it's all one way. It goes from it's kind of like the flowing from a cup up here, a bucket up here, and you got an empty bucket here and it flows into the empty bucket. No, there's no flowing. There are no buckets, you see. You see? And so this doesn't really fit our map. That's why it's spiritual. It doesn't have any form. Maps have form. Everything on a map is located in form in some place and time. Spiritual teaching happens in an intermediate zone between you and the other. See, so it's kind of like a trinity here. You got you got the other, and you got the teaching. You bring these two together, and then again, you have to worry about this word teaching is not learning something, it's seeing something. So spiritual teaching is seeing, not learning, like content. It's not about content. It's about seeing. It's about opening up your wisdom mind to activate. So if you get a credit card, a new credit card, you have to call in to activate the power of the card. So you have to, if you want to activate the teaching within you, you have to get with someone you resonate with that expresses that desire for insight. So it's the desire for understanding and the desire for insight, which you can call mini awakening, you see. We think awakening, oh, no, just an insight into how to open a tricky box is awakening. Oh, I see. Oh, I see, you see. Satori, many, many, many little ones happen all the time, like mini strokes. Oh, a stroke of luck. I just figured out how to open this thing up, you see. That's right, you see? So that's kind of like a mini enlightenment. The insight comes when you ask for it, when you surrender your opinions about what you know. So when you surrender what you know, insight replaces it. If you know, I know what's going on. I got my opinions and my knowledge and all. There's no insight. There's no understanding. It's just you trying to convince everybody that you know everything, that you're the one, you see. But when you're in a spiritual teaching relationship, there is no one. Well, there is a one, but it's two, you see. The one is the intermediate zone between the two positions where you meet in the unconscious and awaken insight, which takes two, you see. Anyway, how's my time? Okay. So anyway, I was just laughing today because finally, after all these years, I have two students. Two medical students who called me and were interested in What's going on with you? Share something about yourself. And I did too. I loaded them up. Because they were open and they were curious. So, thanks for dropping in, and I'll see you tomorrow.